Most people crumble under pressure, but what if you could stay calm, think clearly, and respond with unshakable control?
We begin in the quiet space between events, in the moments most people overlook. Life does not announce itself with fanfare, it presses steadily, subtly, testing your mind in ways you rarely notice. It is easy, when circumstances crowd in, to react first and think later, to allow the sudden intrusion of difficulty to shape your emotions before your reason has a chance to speak. A sharp word, an unexpected mistake, a sudden demand, each carries no inherent power over you except that which you give it in the moment. Here lies the first lesson: pause. Pause before you speak. Pause before you move. Pause before you surrender to the weight of what has arrived. Strength of character begins in measured silence. Do not confuse this pause with weakness. The still mind is not idle, it is active, watching, discerning. In the pause you meet yourself, not the image you wish to project, but the mind that will act under pressure. In that space you have choice. You may respond in anger or fear, or you may respond with reason and purpose. The difference between the two is not circumstance, it is cultivation of the inner life. The world will not wait for your readiness, yet the mind that learns to pause in the storm commands itself and its actions. Notice the sensations that arise when difficulty arrives. A tightening in the chest, a quickening of the pulse, the instinct to speak first or move hastily. These are natural. They are not weaknesses. They are the mind's automatic reaction born of habit, and they must be observed before they are judged. In the observation lies mastery. Once seen, these reactions may be met, studied, and gradually reshaped. To pause is to reclaim authority over yourself, to acknowledge that while the world may push, it cannot force the form of your response. In this first lesson there is also patience. Growth is quiet. Strength is measured, not announced. The human mind is easily swayed by the sudden, the urgent, and the provocative, yet the disciplined mind waits, absorbs, and chooses. Each moment of pressure is an invitation to exercise this patience, to cultivate calm and deliberate action. It is not what happens to you, but how you meet it, that defines your character. The world will not stop for your preparation. That is not its fault, nor is it a reason for complaint. The purpose of the pause is not to change the world, but to change yourself. In the measured silence, you see more clearly, act more deliberately, and carry less regret. To pause is to meet the present moment with readiness, not reaction. This is the foundation. Before all else, learn to stop. Learn to meet pressure not with immediate surrender, but with deliberate awareness. This is the first step in the discipline that will follow, the quiet practice that shapes the strength of your mind. Each pause is a small victory, invisible to the eyes of others, yet foundational for what is to come. It is in these quiet moments that character is built, not in the loud gestures of reaction. Life will continue to press, and it will test your readiness, but with practice, the pause becomes instinct, and the instinct is grounded in reason. In this stillness, you are not idle, you are preparing quietly and firmly to act with clarity when the time arrives. The pause is your first rule, and it carries within it all others. Without it, observation is shallow, perspective is fleeting, and discipline falters. With it, every subsequent choice gains weight, precision, and stability. The mind that pauses before it acts is the mind that remains free under pressure. It is not reaction that defines you, but the space you create between event and response. Start here, in this quiet space, and allow the act of pausing to become habitual. Let it settle into your daily life, into each unexpected moment, each sudden challenge. The strength you seek is not in avoiding difficulty, but in meeting it with control. To pause is to meet yourself, fully present, fully responsible, and fully ready. This is the first rule, the foundation of a mind that will not bend to circumstance. It is not dramatic, it is not sudden, but it is the beginning of mastery, and mastery, in life, is quiet. Once you have learned to pause, the next step is to observe not just the event that confronts you, but your own reactions to it. Many people believe they are responding to life, when in truth they are responding to the reflexes of their own mind. A sharp word, a sudden demand, an unexpected failure, these are only the triggers. The response is yours to study. Take note of the rising tension in your body, the quickening of your thoughts, the instinct to withdraw, defend, or attack. Recognition is not indulgence. It is the prerequisite for control. Observation is a mirror held up to the self. The mind often moves before the eye sees, before the voice speaks, before the hand acts. By observing, you begin to capture what was previously fleeting, to notice the subtle currents beneath your behavior. The moment you recognize your own inclination, you gain choice. The mind that observes is not controlled by impulse. It studies it, names it, and, in doing so, gradually learns to master it. This practice is not theoretical. Consider a moment in daily life. A colleague speaks with impatience, cutting through your careful planning, or a loved one reacts harshly in frustration. The first instinct might be to mirror the tone, to reply with equal sharpness. But if you pause and observe, you see more clearly. The irritation is theirs, the world is indifferent to your discomfort, and your reaction is entirely within your power. Observation allows you to distinguish between what belongs to you and what does not, between what demands your attention and what merely tests it. Observation also reveals patterns. Notice which situations provoke your anger, which comments unsettle you, which pressures make your mind scatter. These are not weaknesses to be ashamed of. They are opportunity for deliberate improvement. Every observed impulse is a chance to intervene in your habitual ways. The unexamined mind drifts like a ship without rudder, subject to waves it cannot anticipate. The observed mind is navigated, prepared, and aware. There is also a quiet humility in observation. You begin to understand that you are not defined by your impulses, and that the world is not designed to accommodate your expectations. Events occur, people act, circumstances change. You cannot command these things, but you can command your attention, your awareness, your choice. Observation creates distance, and distance is freedom. The moment you see a reaction arising, you no longer feel compelled to act on it. The mind that observes is the mind that holds itself accountable, not for what happens, but for what it allows itself to become in response. Do not rush this step. Observation is subtle. It demands patience and repetition. In the beginning, you may catch only fragments, one rising thought, one tightening in the chest, one fleeting impulse. That is enough. Gradually, your awareness will extend, and you will see the larger patterns of your mind under pressure. You will notice the habitual triggers, the familiar responses, and the small victories when you choose differently. Observation is cumulative. Each instance strengthens your capacity to respond deliberately rather than automatically. Observation also fosters empathy, though indirectly. As you notice the impulses within yourself, you begin to see that others are similarly moved by forces beyond their reason. Anger, fear, impatience, all are human, and all may be acknowledged without surrendering your own composure. This recognition does not excuse poor behavior, but it tempers your reaction, allowing measured response instead of reactive conflict. The calm mind observing is rarely provoked into unnecessary disturbance. Finally, observation trains your attention. In a world that demands constant distraction, the ability to notice your own mind is rare and valuable. The unobserved mind is tossed by circumstance. The observed mind is anchored in awareness. By paying attention to your own reactions, you strengthen the muscle of choice, preparing yourself for the moments when pressure is greatest. Observation is not passive. It is the deliberate act of noticing the mind before the mind notices you. Remember this. Pressure itself is neutral. It is your perception and your reaction that give it weight. By observing, you begin to see the truth beneath the surface turbulence. You discover what is yours, what is not, and what lies within your control. The mind that practices observation is no longer a servant to circumstance. It is a careful navigator of its own inner world. In cultivating this skill, combine it always with the pause you have already learned. Pause first, observe second. The two together create a quiet, disciplined space in which choice is possible. Each moment of observation, each recognition of an impulse, is a step toward mastery. This is the second rule: know your mind. Know how it moves, how it reacts, and how it may be guided with patience and clarity. Through observation, you claim the freedom to act not as habit dictates, but as reason and virtue demand. Once you have learned to observe, the next step is to create distance between yourself and the impulse that arises. This is perhaps the most difficult yet most liberating lesson, to understand that the surge of anger, fear, or frustration is not you. It is a passing force within you, like a wave upon the shore. To merge with it is to surrender. To step back is to reclaim choice. The mind that reacts immediately is a mind enslaved. The mind that pauses, observes, and distances itself begins to build freedom. Distance is not indifference, it is clarity. When provoked, the instinct may be to lash out or defend. But when you create a quiet gap between stimulus and reaction, you allow reason to speak. You begin to see the event in its true form, separate from the exaggerated narrative your impulses construct. A slight insult may feel like a blow to your entire being, yet when held at a distance, it is only words. A sudden challenge may seem catastrophic, yet in calm reflection, is merely a problem to be addressed, not a threat to your existence. This distance is a form of control over the self. The untrained mind reacts first, regrets later. The disciplined mind waits, measures, and acts deliberately. It does not mirror the chaos of the world. It moves according to principle. You are not the first to face adversity, nor will you be the last. Each challenge can either sweep you away or become an opportunity to exercise mastery. The choice belongs to you alone, and the space you cultivate between stimulus and response determines that choice. Creating distance also reveals perspective. When a challenge is separated from your immediate emotional reaction, its true scale becomes apparent. How much will this matter in a week, a month, or a year? What can you influence and what lies beyond your control? Most disturbances demand less energy than you instinctively assign them. By stepping back, you conserve strength for deliberate action, rather than dissipating it in reactive turmoil. Consider a moment of confrontation. A peer speaks sharply. A customer lashes out. A situation escalates unexpectedly. Without distance, the mind is immediately consumed by emotion. With distance, you notice the rise of anger without becoming it. You see the opportunity to respond effectively. You recognize what is yours and what is not. You act with purpose rather than instinct. Freedom arises not from the absence of challenge, but from the ability to stand apart from it. This practice requires patience and repetition. At first, the impulse may feel overwhelming, as if stepping back is impossible. The mind protests, "This is happening to me. I must act." And yet, the simple act of observing the impulse and refusing to merge with it is transformative. Over time, it becomes habitual. The moments when you can step back grow longer, the space between stimulus and response expands, and the mind becomes less reactive by default. Distance also cultivates resilience. When the mind is fused with impulse, every setback is a personal injury, every criticism a threat. When the mind is distanced, setbacks are understood as events to navigate, and criticism as information to consider. You are no longer tossed by every disturbance. You learn to meet difficulty without internal collapse. The mind that distances itself preserves calm, energy, and clarity, even when the world is unrelenting. Importantly, distance is not avoidance. It does not mean ignoring reality or denying the presence of difficulty. It means engaging with the world from a position of strength, not reaction. The mind that steps back sees the problem clearly, assesses options without haste, and acts with the wisdom that only patience can provide. Impulse may still arise, but it no longer controls you. In cultivating this space, combine it with pause and observation. First pause, then notice, then step back. Each layer adds stability. Each layer increases control. The mind that masters these steps gains the ability to navigate pressure without surrendering to it, to act decisively without being hurried, to live in accordance with principle rather than instinct. This is the third rule: separate yourself from the impulse. Understand that emotion is not identity, that pressure is not mastery, and that true freedom begins with distance. When practiced consistently, this lesson transforms the mind from a reactive participant in life to a deliberate agent of action. In every storm there is a still center. Cultivate it, step into it, and act from it. Once you have learned to pause, observe, and create distance from your impulses, the next principle emerges naturally: anticipation. Life does not deliver pressure at convenient times. The sudden demands, unexpected confrontations, and moments of stress will continue to arrive without warning. To meet them effectively, the mind must be prepared before the storm hits. Anticipation is not worry, it is quiet rehearsal of the self in advance of circumstance. Consider the craftsman who tests his tools before beginning work. He does not wait until the blade dulls mid-task to adjust. He prepares, he sharpens, he checks the alignment. So too must the mind rehearse its responses, visualize the moments when anger may rise, when fear may tempt retreat, when insult may spark reaction. In this mental rehearsal, you discover how you wish to respond, the tone you will take, the calm you will preserve. By anticipating, you turn pressure into practice rather than surprise. Anticipation is also recognition of inevitability. Difficulties are part of life. To resist this truth is to guarantee repeated turmoil. The mind that anticipates does not expect the world to conform to comfort. It expects challenge and prepares for it. It does not create anxiety in imagining hardship. It creates readiness. A mind that has rehearsed its response will not be controlled by circumstance. It will meet it as a familiar adversary, not as a tyrant. In practice, anticipation is subtle. You need not dwell obsessively on every possible inconvenience. The task is to quietly run through the likely pressures you will face and to consider how you will meet them without losing composure. What is your response when interrupted, when criticized, when deadlines press or expectations rise? By considering these questions in advance, you remove some of the urgency that feeds panic, anger, and rash behavior. Anticipation also strengthens the pause and observation you have already cultivated. When a challenge arrives, it is no longer entirely new. The mind has rehearsed restraint, clarity, and calm action. Observation becomes easier because the expected pressures no longer trigger raw surprise. Distance is maintained because the mind has already reviewed the steps it will take. In this way, anticipation builds layers of protection against the sway of impulse. This practice teaches humility as well. By anticipating difficulty, you acknowledge that you cannot control events, only your response. You cannot prevent the sudden insult, the harsh word, or the unplanned problem, but you can prepare for the fact that it will come. Recognition of life's unpredictability fosters a quiet courage, not the loud bravery of impulse, but the steady fortitude of a mind that has seen challenge before it arrives. Anticipation also cultivates discipline over desire. Many reactions under pressure are fueled by the mind's craving for comfort or avoidance of discomfort. By preparing in advance, you reduce the power of these impulses. The anticipated moment is no longer entirely threatening. The mind has rehearsed reason and action. Desire and fear lose their grip, and response becomes deliberate. Importantly, anticipation does not replace presence. You must still engage fully with the moment as it unfolds. Anticipation is preparation, not escape. It creates readiness without anxiety, foresight without obsession. When pressure arrives, the mind responds not from panic, but from familiarity. This is strength born of practice, not luck. Finally, anticipation fosters confidence. There is no arrogance in expecting difficulty. There is assurance in preparedness. You recognize that challenges are opportunities to exercise what you have trained within yourself: patience, calm, observation, and measured action. Each anticipated scenario strengthens the mind's capacity to respond, and with each response, mastery deepens. This is the fourth rule: meet pressure before it arrives. Rehearse your response, recognize the inevitability of challenge, and build readiness within yourself. Life will continue to test you, but the mind that anticipates moves through difficulty with composure, not chaos. By practicing this quietly, steadily, and consistently, you convert the unknown into familiar ground, and you transform pressure from threat into opportunity. With pause, observation, distance, and anticipation in place, we arrive at the next principle, acceptance. Many stumble here, believing that acceptance is surrender, as if yielding to circumstance is weakness. It is not. True acceptance is recognition of reality as it is, without distortion or denial. The difficulty may be unfair, the setback may sting, yet your response need not be dictated by resistance. Energy wasted on complaint or frustration is energy lost to clarity and deliberate action. Acceptance preserves both strength and perspective. To accept is to face the truth of the moment without embellishment. Life does not conform to desire, events occur, people act, and outcomes unfold beyond your control. The mind that resists constantly fights shadows. The mind that accepts sees clearly and can act accordingly. Consider a sudden disappointment, a project delayed, an opportunity denied, a relationship strained. The initial sting is natural, but acceptance allows you to acknowledge the facts without exaggeration. You do not deny the discomfort, you simply meet it and ask, what next? Acceptance also strengthens emotional resilience. Those who refuse to accept reality amplify their suffering. They cling to how things should have been, how others ought to behave, how the world should bend to their expectations. Acceptance removes this unnecessary burden. It allows the mind to focus not on grievance, but on response. The obstacle remains, but the mind meets it with clarity and calm. This is not resignation, it is alignment with what is, enabling deliberate action within the constraints that life presents. The act of acceptance cultivates patience. Life unfolds at its own pace, and many pressures arrive slower or faster than anticipated. To resist the natural flow of events is to court frustration. To accept the rhythm of circumstance is to conserve energy, to preserve reason, and to act when the moment demands. The mind that accepts does not flinch at delay, disappointment, or resistance. It navigates them steadily, without surrendering composure. Acceptance also fosters responsibility. Once reality is acknowledged, the question becomes, what can I do within my sphere of control? The moment you accept a problem, you can focus on solution rather than complaint. Complaining expends effort, acting preserves it. Acceptance directs attention to what is actionable, to the choices within your reach, to the work that can be accomplished despite difficulty. In this way, acceptance is not passivity, it is engagement guided by reason. Another aspect of acceptance is humility. The mind must recognize its limits. You cannot control the actions of others, the opinions of strangers, or the unfolding of every event. Attempting to do so leads only to frustration. Acceptance acknowledges these boundaries without despair, without bitterness. By focusing on what lies within, you cultivate influence rather than illusion. The wise mind acts where it can and lets go where it cannot. Acceptance also sharpens focus under pressure. When confronted with the unexpected, the mind that resists is scattered. The mind that accepts is centered. It does not expend thought on what cannot be changed, nor does it magnify difficulty through imagined injustice. Instead, it perceives clearly, conserves energy, and acts in alignment with principle. Calm clarity is the reward of this practice. In practical terms, acceptance is cultivated in small moments, when delayed by traffic, when misunderstood in conversation, when plans are disrupted. Practice acknowledging the fact without emotional exaggeration. Let your response be measured. Each small exercise builds the habit of meeting life without unnecessary disturbance. Gradually, acceptance becomes natural, and the mind experiences less turbulence even in significant adversity. Finally, acceptance is inseparable from the other rules. Pause allows you to step back. Observation makes impulses visible. Distance creates perspective. Anticipation prepares the mind, and acceptance aligns it with reality. Together they form a system of mastery over reaction, a disciplined approach to pressure. This is the fifth rule: embrace reality without surrendering principle. Meet difficulty not with resistance, but with clarity. Preserve your energy for deliberate action rather than squander it in complaint. The mind that accepts preserves calm and strength in the face of the inevitable, and in doing so it cultivates freedom from unnecessary suffering. Once you have cultivated acceptance, the next principle is to act and speak with deliberate purpose. Under pressure, it is easy to let impulse dictate words and actions. A sharp remark, a hasty decision, a gesture of frustration, these are often the results of untrained instinct. The mind that has paused, observed, distanced, anticipated, and accepted now gains the ability to choose its responses carefully. Every word spoken and every action taken under pressure should serve reason, not reaction. Consider the power of speech. Words are not mere sounds, they shape perception, influence others, and, more importantly, define your own character. When provoked, the instinct may be to lash out or defend yourself. Yet a disciplined mind speaks only after measuring the impulse, considering both effect and necessity. Silence, when chosen deliberately, is far stronger than any rushed retort. Words are powerful tools. Use them with precision, not haste. Action, likewise, must be guided by purpose. Pressure often demands immediate responses, but not all urgency is genuine. Distinguish between what must be addressed immediately and what can wait for reflection. The mind that responds without haste conserves energy, reduces error, and maintains integrity. Each measured action reinforces the habit of self-control, turning potential chaos into reasoned effectiveness. Purposeful action under pressure is also rooted in principle. Do not act merely to satisfy ego, quell discomfort, or appease external expectation. Act according to what is just, necessary, and effective. The untrained mind may overreact to minor irritations or chase fleeting satisfaction, but the disciplined mind aligns its deeds with enduring values. This alignment ensures that each choice strengthens character rather than diminishes it. Deliberate action also requires the cultivation of timing. Often, the strongest response is not the immediate one, but the one taken after consideration. To rush in is to risk error, to hesitate too long is to risk inaction. The mind trained under the rules we have explored, pause, observation, distance, anticipation, acceptance, develops a sense of timing that is neither hasty nor passive, but measured and effective. Purposeful speech and action under pressure are inseparable from clarity of thought. The distracted mind, driven by emotion, moves erratically. The disciplined mind, however, sees clearly and acts in alignment with reason. Each choice becomes a reflection of internal mastery rather than external circumstance. The world may press, challenge, or provoke, yet your response is shaped by principle and discernment. This discipline also fosters self-respect. When words and actions are deliberate, you maintain integrity even in difficult situations. You do not compromise character for the sake of immediate relief or reactive satisfaction. Others may react hastily or unfairly, but your steadiness remains a testament to the strength cultivated within. Self-respect is not granted by the world, it is built quietly in these moments of measured response. Deliberate action requires constant practice. Begin with small pressures, a minor inconvenience, a brief irritation, a mild disagreement. Choose speech and action carefully and observe the effect. Gradually, as the habit deepens, it will extend to greater challenges. The mind becomes trained to respond not as circumstance dictates, but as reason guides. Each measured decision reinforces the foundation of mastery. Finally, deliberate action under pressure is not about control over others, it is control over yourself. You cannot dictate the behavior of the world, but you can shape the way you act within it. Words, gestures, and choices become tools of reason, rather than expressions of impulse. This is the essence of self-mastery, to act in accordance with principle, even when the world tests your composure and tempts you toward reaction. This is the sixth rule: Speak and act with purpose. Let every word and movement under pressure be deliberate, measured, and aligned with reason. In doing so, you preserve calm, protect integrity, and cultivate the quiet strength that defines the disciplined mind. Through deliberate action, you transform moments of pressure into opportunities to exercise mastery, reinforcing control over yourself rather than surrendering to circumstance. With deliberate action and measured speech established, the next principle to cultivate is perspective. Under pressure, the mind tends to magnify the importance of events, treating minor setbacks as catastrophic and fleeting irritations as existential threats. Perspective allows the mind to step back and see the full context, to measure difficulty against the broader flow of life. A single insult, a mistake, a delay relative to the span of existence. These are often insignificant, yet when we inflate them, they dominate our thoughts and provoke unnecessary reaction. Perspective is not detachment from life. It is engagement tempered by clarity. To see clearly is to recognize the transient nature of most pressures. Life unfolds in cycles, and even the sharpest moment of adversity will pass. By viewing events in the larger context, you reduce the power they hold over your emotion. A calm mind does not exaggerate the threat of circumstance. It evaluates, prioritizes, and acts where action is warranted. This principle also teaches humility. The world does not revolve around your expectations, nor do the actions of others necessarily carry a personal weight. By understanding that events are largely indifferent, you liberate yourself from the illusion that every disturbance is a direct assault on your character or well-being. Perspective shifts the focus from imagined injury to measured response. You see what is, not what your fear or pride insists is. Perspective is strengthened by reflection. Consider the pressures you have already faced, which seemed insurmountable at the moment but now appear small or even instructive in retrospect. History of self, when observed honestly, demonstrates that most difficulties are temporary and that your capacity to endure is far greater than initially perceived. By recalling past endurance, the mind gains confidence in its ability to meet present challenges. Another aspect of perspective is prioritization. Not all disturbances are equal. Some require immediate attention. Others are minor distractions. The disciplined mind distinguishes between the trivial and the essential, responding only where reason and principle dictate. In this way, perspective is an instrument of efficiency, conserving mental energy for matters that truly require it. Perspective also tempers emotion. Anger, fear, and frustration often arise from a narrow focus on the immediate moment. By enlarging the mental field, the mind reduces these reactive tendencies. Pressure becomes manageable when it is placed in proportion to life as a whole. The surge of irritation at a colleague's criticism, for example, loses its intensity when considered in the context of a lifetime of work, relationships, and purpose. Moreover, perspective fosters patience. Impatience is born of overestimation, the belief that circumstances should align instantly with expectation. By seeing events in context, you understand that change, resolution, and progress occur in their own time. The mind that maintains perspective moves steadily rather than reacting rashly to every obstruction. Patience is the companion of perspective, and together they fortify composure under pressure. Perspective also strengthens empathy, subtly but profoundly. Recognizing that others, too, are navigating their own pressures allows for measured response rather than reactive judgment. People act imperfectly not to frustrate you, but because they are human, subject to the same impulses and errors you yourself experience. This understanding softens reactive tendencies and fosters deliberate engagement rather than instinctive conflict. Finally, perspective is inseparable from the previous rules. Pause allows space, observation reveals impulses, distance creates separation, anticipation prepares the mind, acceptance aligns it with reality. Deliberate action ensures purpose. Perspective places all of these within a larger frame, reminding you of scale, impermanence, and proportion. It ensures that even when pressure is intense, your mind remains anchored, your choices measured, and your composure intact. This is the seventh rule: cultivate perspective. Step back, see the broader picture, and weigh events against the flow of life. Do not diminish reality, but do not inflate it either. By maintaining perspective, you transform immediate pressure into manageable circumstance, preserving calm, clarity, and the freedom to act wisely. In every challenge, measure the whole before responding to the part, and the mind will remain steadfast amidst the turbulence of life. Once perspective is cultivated, the next principle emerges naturally: embrace discomfort as training. Pressure, difficulty, and challenge are the gymnasium of the mind. Most people recoil from discomfort, seeking ease and avoiding stress. Yet it is precisely in these moments that character is forged. Every test of patience, composure, or resilience is an opportunity to strengthen the inner self. To meet difficulty without surrender is to exercise mental and emotional muscle. Discomfort is inevitable. Life will not spare you trials simply because you prefer comfort. To resist this truth is to invite suffering. The wise mind, however, does not wish for difficulty, but it welcomes it as a teacher. Each moment that threatens composure or tests restraint becomes a practice in mastery. The pain, inconvenience, or anxiety is temporary. The strength developed in its presence endures. Consider the body. Muscles grow through strain, not ease. The mind, similarly, grows when confronted with pressure, not when insulated from it. Embracing discomfort requires intention. You must consciously meet the moment rather than shrink from it. When irritation arises, when fear tempts retreat, when challenge demands endurance, choose to engage with composure. The initial impulse may be to flee or react impulsively, but the deliberate choice to remain present transforms pressure into opportunity. Each small victory over instinctual reaction strengthens resolve and builds confidence. This practice also cultivates resilience. The mind trained to face difficulty without panic or complaint becomes unshakable. Minor pressures no longer provoke disproportionate response, and significant challenges are met with steadiness rather than chaos. By consistently embracing discomfort, you transform adversity from a threat into a means of growth. What once might have overwhelmed is now instructive, a chance to refine judgment and fortify character. Embracing discomfort is not masochism, it is discipline. You do not seek unnecessary suffering, but you do not avoid the necessary tests that life delivers. In this way, pressure becomes a mirror. It reveals habitual reactions, exposes weaknesses, and highlights areas for improvement. The mind that faces these truths willingly gains clarity about its strengths and vulnerabilities. Each encounter with difficulty is both a lesson and a rehearsal for future challenges. This principle also deepens the practice of previous rules. The pause becomes easier when discomfort is expected. Observation is sharper when impulses are acknowledged without fear. Distance is natural when the mind understands the temporary nature of tension. Anticipation becomes rehearsal of resilience. Acceptance is grounded in reality. Deliberate action flows from inner preparation. Perspective frames every challenge within a wider context. Discomfort, approached wisely, integrates all previous disciplines into lived experience. Moreover, embracing discomfort fosters patience and humility. You learn that life does not bend to your comfort, and that control over external circumstances is limited. The focus shifts inward, to cultivate steadiness, clarity, and reason despite pressure. Each test reinforces the truth that strength lies not in avoidance, but in the measured engagement of the mind with the inevitable. Finally, the consistent practice of embracing discomfort builds confidence. Confidence not born of success alone, but of repeated trials met with composure. You discover that you are capable of enduring more than instinct suggested, that your reason can guide your impulses, and that your mind, when disciplined, remains free even in adversity. This is the eighth rule: welcome difficulty as training. Do not flee from pressure. Meet it with calm reflection and deliberate engagement. Each challenge, each irritation, each discomfort is a chance to cultivate strength, refine judgment, and deepen mastery over yourself. In doing so, you transform life's inevitable trials from obstacles into teachers, and you build a mind resilient to the turbulence of circumstance. Once discomfort has been embraced as training, the next principle is self-examination. The disciplined mind does not allow days, challenges, or interactions to pass without reflection. Each moment of pressure, each test of patience, each temptation to react, each success or failure in restraint deserves honest review. Self-examination is not self-criticism, nor is it indulgence in regret. It is the deliberate act of understanding your own mind, your habits, your choices, and the effects they produce. Begin by looking back on the day's events. Where did you act with clarity and composure? Where did you falter, giving in to impulse or allowing discomfort to unsettle you? Observe without exaggeration or judgment, as if you were examining a tool rather than condemning a failure. The mind grows not through punishment, but through insight. Each recognition of weakness is an opportunity to refine habits. Each acknowledgement of success reinforces the practices that lead to mastery. Self-examination also highlights patterns. Perhaps certain situations trigger irritation more readily, or specific words provoke fear, or certain pressures erode patience. By noting these tendencies, you gain awareness of recurring challenges and can prepare accordingly. Observation alone captures a moment. Self-examination sees the thread that runs through many moments. It allows the mind to build strategies for improvement rather than repeating the same errors unconsciously. This practice requires honesty. It is easy to deceive oneself, to excuse lapses, or to minimize failures. But the disciplined mind confronts truth directly. Without honesty, self-examination becomes mere rationalization. With honesty, it becomes a tool for transformation. A single day reviewed with clarity can illuminate patterns that otherwise take months or years to recognize. Each reflection compounds, creating gradual but enduring change in character. Self-examination is also an exercise in gratitude for your own capacity to learn. Recognizing mistakes does not diminish worth, it affirms the potential for growth. Similarly, acknowledging moments of calm, restraint, and deliberate action strengthens confidence and reinforces disciplined habits. Each success, however small, confirms the mind's ability to respond with reason rather than impulse. Moreover, self-examination strengthens responsibility. The mind that reflects on its actions accepts ownership of its responses rather than blaming circumstance, others, or chance. You cannot control external events, but you can always control how you meet them. Reflection makes this clear. Every moment of unreactive composure, every deliberate action under pressure is the product of choice, and each lapse is an invitation to learn and refine. The process also integrates all prior rules. Pausing becomes more instinctive, observation is sharper, distance comes naturally, anticipation becomes more precise, acceptance is deeper, deliberate action aligns more consistently, perspective frames responses accurately, embracing discomfort feels less foreign. Self-examination consolidates these practices, turning them from theory into lived reality. Finally, self-examination is a quiet form of growth. It is invisible to others, unremarkable in appearance, yet transformative over time. The disciplined mind does not seek applause for reflection. It seeks clarity, understanding, and steady improvement. In doing so, it ensures that the mind is prepared for greater challenges, that habits of restraint and reason are reinforced, and that each day's practice compounds into lasting mastery. This is the 9th rule. Review yourself regularly. Examine your responses to pressure. Identify patterns. Acknowledge successes and failures, and adjust accordingly. In the careful study of your own mind, you build resilience, sharpen judgment, and cultivate the subtle yet profound strength that sustains calm under any circumstance. Through self-examination, Mastery over reaction becomes intentional, continuous, and enduring. Do you like this personality? Finally, having paused, observed, distanced yourself from impulse, anticipated difficulty, accepted reality, acted deliberately, maintained perspective, embraced discomfort, and examined yourself, the last principle emerges: integration. Mastery under pressure is not a single skill, nor a temporary effort. It is a way of being cultivated through consistent practice across every moment of life. Each previous rule forms a layer, and integration weaves them into a living system of composure, clarity, and disciplined action. Integration begins with presence. You do not wait for an ideal circumstance to practice mastery. You bring these rules to each moment, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. A heated conversation, a frustrating delay, a sudden problem at work or home — these are the tests where integration matters most. The pause, the observation, the distance, anticipation, acceptance, deliberate action, perspective, discomfort, and self-examination are no longer separate exercises. They are habits, guiding thought and action seamlessly. Integration requires vigilance. Even with mastery, the mind is susceptible to distraction, fatigue, and habituated reaction. The world will continue to pressure you, as it always has. Moments of irritation, fear, and surprise will arise, but the mind that has integrated these principles meets each instance with preparation rather than panic. Impulse no longer dictates response. Reason, virtue, and deliberate choice do. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to exercise the cultivated calm, to strengthen the habits formed over time. The integrated mind also acts with quiet authority. There is no need for external validation or dramatic gestures. Composure, clarity, and consistent action are their own reward. Others may not recognize your self-mastery, but it is evident in the steadiness of your life, the measured way you navigate challenges, and the calm influence you bring to situations that unsettle others. Strength, when internalized, is subtle but unmistakable. Integration deepens reflection and growth. By combining self-examination with lived practice, the mind continually learns from experience, reinforcing what works and adjusting what does not. Each moment of pressure becomes a classroom, each difficulty a teacher, each reaction a lesson. The rules you have cultivated are no longer theoretical. They are woven into the fabric of your daily existence, visible in how you respond, how you act, and how you remain steady amidst turbulence. Integration also fosters freedom. Pressure is inevitable, but its power over you diminishes as the mind internalizes these practices. External events may be unpredictable, yet the internal landscape remains stable. By acting from reason rather than instinct, by measuring words and deeds, by holding perspective, and by embracing difficulty, you move through life with the independence of thought and the quiet confidence that comes from self-mastery. Finally, integration is ongoing. Mastery is not a destination, it is a practice. Each day, each moment, each unexpected event is a chance to reinforce the rules you have cultivated. The work is quiet, invisible, and continuous, yet its effects accumulate over time. The mind shaped by these practices becomes resilient, disciplined, and unwavering, capable of facing any circumstance with reason, composure, and clarity. As you move forward, remember that this journey is yours to cultivate. Pause deliberately, observe keenly, distance yourself from impulse, anticipate wisely, accept reality, act with purpose, maintain perspective, embrace discomfort, and examine yourself consistently. Then weave these principles together into daily life, allowing them to guide your response under every pressure. Take this moment to reflect. What will you practice today to strengthen your mind? Which moments of pressure will you meet with patience, clarity, and reason rather than reaction? The work is yours to do quietly and deliberately. Let each challenge be a teacher, and each day an opportunity to reinforce mastery. Build yourself steadily with discipline, with awareness, and with the calm authority of a mind forged under pressure. Pause, reflect, act deliberately, and continue your journey of disciplined self-mastery. Built by Stoicism, your progress begins within, and it continues with every choice you make under pressure.